welcome to the December 11th meeting of the Franklin Historic Zoning Commission, and I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. And our first item is to approve the minutes first of October the 9th, which we deferred from last month. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you, Mary. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tyler. Any additions or corrections?
I'd like to abstain.
Okay, Scott abstained. Any other comments? All in favor, then please say aye. Aye. Any opposed and one abstention? And let's see, Ms. Worthington is not here at the moment, so. Next one is entertain a motion to approve the November 13th meeting minutes. Is there such a motion on those?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lisa. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay. Announcements.
We have a regularly scheduled design review committee meeting scheduled for 4 o'clock next Monday.
You've had a list of a number of items already?
Not yet.
Oh.
I think so far we've received 2 submittals, but that was like at 3 o'clock this afternoon. They have until 11:59 tonight to submit.
Plus what happens here.
Potentially, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim Roberts has served on the Historic Zoning Commission for the past 10 years, and he served the last 5 of those years as the chair of the commission. Along with numerous other volunteer duties, Jim has dedicated much time to commission meetings, special meetings, design review meetings, site visits, not to mention the time at home in preparation for the projects that come before this body. This is his last month of Historic Zoning Commission meetings, as he'll be rolling off at the end of the year. His leadership and facilitation skills were expertly put to use over the last 10 years, and he will be greatly missed by all of us. If you'd like to present this token, Jim, if you could come around. We'd like to present this small token of our appreciation for your vast volunteer hours and leadership. This is artwork by local artist Lori Wagenka, and purchased at Heart and Hand for you to add to your downtown collection.
Thank you very much.
3, 2, 1. Awesome.
Thank you.
And we'll have cookies after the meeting to celebrate.
And I'd like to say a few words, if that's okay. So, Jim, even though you are stepping down, I know I can speak for everyone when I say that, number one, we're sorry to see you stepping down. Number two, your leadership and your calm in the midst of storms
Maybe
has-
outwardly.
has been something we've all learned from and will keep with us no matter where you are.
Thank you.
So you've taught us more than you even realize, and you will be very, very missed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I will just say quickly, because we got a big agenda. I'm grateful, number one, that I've lived in Franklin, Tennessee for 46 years now. And that was it's changed a lot, but it's changed really for the better. I'm delighted that we have historic zoning because it gives some discipline to these areas that are in the historic zones. I'm grateful for the participation and the support that you all provide, and everybody that's even preceded some of you. So it's been a great experience for me, and I'm honored to have been appointed. I'm honored to have served, and I appreciate what all of you have taught me, because that's a lot. And Margaret and I had at least I had no idea what we were doing when we bought an old home on Adams Street 45 years ago, but are still learning what to do with that and the issues that old homes have. But it's been a great place for us to raise 3 boys and now 8 grandchildren that trickle back in there. So it's been a joy. But I appreciate you, and I appreciate city staff who supports us and prepares us and is a buffer for us for a lot of the applicants. And it's really a great service that they provide, and their dedication and training and expertise and the way they help y'all and help me too with our pre-meeting meetings sometimes to understand better some of these applications. So thank you, and thanks to all of you. So let's get on with it. We're now ready for citizen comments. It's open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you'd like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, please wait until the citizen comment period for that item. For all citizen comments, please fill out a speaker card and hand it to staff. Come up to the microphone and state your name and address, and then limit your comment to 2 minutes. And I'll hold the cards until, and if we do receive any, until that particular item comes up. Are there any citizens which comment now for items that are not on the agenda? Hearing none, then we will move on to our first application tonight. Consideration of alterations, front facade, in-kind replacement at 348 Main Street. Timothy Winter applicant. Elizabeth, you could.
The application proposes to replace in-kind the elements of the front facade, including the storefront cornice box, crown molding, and ornamental elements. The application proposes to build back 2 decorative diamond blocks that are currently missing from the cornice on the right side of the entrance. Additionally, an 18-inch cap on top of the crown is proposed to be replaced. Currently, this cap is made of plywood with a rubber membrane covering and is proposed to be replaced with cypress wood. As proposed, the application meets the guidelines. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the application with conditions. Thank you.
Thanks. Would the applicant please introduce yourself and make any comments?
My name's David Miller. I work for Gate Post Construction and everything. We're doing the job, and I'm just here to make sure there's no questions about the work to be done.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any citizens which comment on the application? Hearing none, commissioners, we need a motion.
I would move to approve with staff conditions.
Thank you, Mary. Is there a second? Scott? Thank you, Scott. Comments? Ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next item, consideration of signage, 3 post and arm signs at 249 4th Avenue North. Mike Hathaway, applicant.
This proposal seeks approval for 3 post and arm signs. The guidelines recommend that a residential building should have no more than 3 signs, with the intent of using a combination of different sign types for the building. While the proposal meets the guideline for the overall number of signs, the guidelines recommend that only 1 post and arm sign be utilized per building, and the proposal includes 3 post and arm signs. Staff recommends the approval of 1 post and arm sign with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hathaway.
Sure, thank you. Mike Hathaway, 906 Studio Architects. On behalf of the partners of the building, our request is really simple. It's a 160-foot plus or minus long building designed to look like 3 houses that were combined together into one. So all I'm asking is because of the length, if you had compare that to 3 individual lots that would have been there would have been 3 signs. So streetscape wise, I don't want to change anything that could have been there in the past. So I'm just asking to be allowed to have 2 post signs along 4th Avenue that would be designed in keeping with the historic downtown. the proper design of the signs themselves and the frame itself, separated appropriately so that they're not right on top of each other, and then one along north margin. And just want to be able to provide signage for our tenants in the building, but do it in a tasteful way that's easy to read from the street and is appropriate for this scale of project. So would appreciate your approval.
Are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application? Hearing none, need a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the 3 post and arm signs. And my reason for going against staff recommendations is based on what the applicant said. I agree that they are equivalent to individual lots. And so I think a sign per lot, so to speak, is appropriate.
Or is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Scott. Discussion?
The only discussion I would have, Mr. Chair, is have you considered maybe making all the posts not exactly alike so that it's looks a bit more organic?
Very happy to do that.
Well, I would offer that as an amendment, and just to bring the post back to staff.
I'll second that amendment.
Any idea on how you want, what difference you want it to look like, what differences?
I mean, I feel like that Mike probably would understand that comment.
All right, that's fine. Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, then, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, back to the main motion then. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a question for staff, and that would be, so what would staff envision as being, the single sign, just with smaller tenant panels, or, what would be the recommendation?
So like a directory sign is, I believe, there's one property on, I think it's 4th Avenue. I can't remember exactly which street it was, but it was administratively approved that it was a post and panel, a post and arm sign like this, and it did have all of the tenants on this, the hanging part of the sign. And so that is an option that we've seen. Or a different kind of directory sign is beside the door, and it shows all the tenants that are in the building.
And would individual tenants be allowed to have some kind of an exterior wall sign, next to their, where their doors or on the building?
It would depend on, with our sign guidelines, it has like specific ones for like the signage. So like some are, it has to be right above an entrance. And so this building is unique that there's one entrance. And so at least on this front, and then there's one on the rear. And so it creates a unique case that, potentially a kind of small little hanging sign, it's appropriate, or the directory sign is appropriate. And then on the rear, they are, the guidelines do allow for a different type of sign on the rear because of if it leads to a back parking lot.
So there's just one entrance. Every tenant doesn't have an exterior entrance that goes into it.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
Thank you, that helped clarify.
Any other comments? Ready to vote then. All in favor of the motion to approve as amended, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
One no.
Okay.
Mr. Laster votes no.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next item is, no page, right? consideration of alterations at 230 Franklin Road, Building 11. Emily.
Let's see. So this proposal has several different components, and I'll just walk through them. The first one is for storefront replacement, and I'll zoom in so we can see exactly. So we're talking about this portion. I'll zoom in a little bit more for us. So this is existing here in the top photo, and the proposal is to alter it so it looks like the bottom photo. And so that entails utilizing a salvaged window and salvaged brick. And as proposed, the replacement of the non-historic window is not supported by the guidelines, and more information is needed to know if this opening was a door opening or if it was originally a window opening. Then, moving on to the next component is the removal of the non-historic silver awnings. And so the removal of these awnings are appropriate within the guidelines, and the intent is to replace them to match what is there at the factory, and that is appropriate within the guidelines. And I'll go ahead and skip to the last one because it is removal of the awning. And I just wanted to go ahead and state that this
That's
is removal. Let me scroll back up. And so here's a photo of what the material is and kind of the angle of the awnings. Then going to the next component is the patio door replacement. And this includes a proposal to replace the existing non-historic patio door with steel double doors. And this involves widening the opening and removing additional historic window panes and brick. And the previous plans have shown that the existing windows are not strong enough to support the previous plans that we've seen within the past couple months, that the windows are not strong enough to support the double steel doors, and a portion of the windows above the door then have to be replaced to a stronger material to support the new entrance. As proposed, the current proposal does not meet the intent of the guidelines. And then for the skylights, there's a proposal to install 3 of the skylights, and the guidelines recommend to position them so that they're not visible from the street. And while some of the rooftop mechanical equipment is being removed from the roof, the installation of new rooftop elements that will be visible from the street view does not meet the guidelines. So staff recommends denial of the storefront replacement, patio door replacement, and the installation of skylights. And then staff recommends approval of the removal of the non-historic awnings and the replacement of the awnings to match the red-brown awnings existing at the factory with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please introduce yourself and comment on the application.
Good afternoon. My name is Victor Lekov. I work for Anecdote Architectural Experiences. I'm the project architect on the proposed Sapphire restaurant. And in this presentation, we've compiled a list of exterior improvements that we are proposing. Starting with item A, storefront replacement. What we're proposing here is to replace the clear anodized aluminum storefront, which is not consistent with the rest of the factory, with a knee wall of brick and a window above that. Now, the new one would be using the salvage brick that the landlord has saved, and the window system has been donated by the landlord. It is also from the factory. And what this is creating is a symmetry with what is happening on the left side of that front facade. And so we're just tying back and creating a symmetry here. Item B, This is the replacement of the awning. Do we need to go through this since you approve, or I'm
You-
happy to go through that as well?
You don't have to, it's
Okay.
just up to you.
Okay. Well, just to go very briefly, we're proposing to replace the silver awning on sort of in the background here that you can see with something that is consistent with the front facade. We would propose to fabricate it in the same manner that the front awning is fabricated, which is a combination of C channels, steel angle for the structure, and is topped by a corrugated steel roof panel. We can go to item C, which is the patio door. Here we are proposing to replace this clear anodized aluminum storefront, which again is not consistent with what's in the factory. A lot of the new opening have been modified with a steel fabricated window or door system, which is what we're proposing on the right. That door design would be consistent with the overall window system. And we've talked with the landlord, and the landlord has communicated with us that in some cases, whenever an opening is being modified, there is a chance that the existing window system is too fragile to hold on to the new door. In this case, what we're proposing is modifying the area above that double door with, again, a steel fabricated window system that would be consistent with what was there prior. Sorry. And to be clear, this is not our preferred option. Obviously, we would rather not have to modify what's there. It's just in case we have to go that route, this is what we would propose. Item D, skylights. Here we are proposing to add 3 new skylights that would be consistent with the skylight that already exists over the main hall. And as you go down in the presentation, we are showing sort of what that could look like. Next slide, I believe. And this is sort of the existing condition and what we're proposing. We're proposing a product that is as low profile as a skylight can be. And on the next slide, you can see sort of a real world application of that skylight product, which is a project right in front of our office. The skylight protrudes about 5 to 6 inches beyond the roof deck. And this is very similar to what we would be proposing on above the Sapphire restaurant. And item E, which is our last item, is the proposal of the awning, sort of in the side facade of the building 11. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any citizens which comment on this application? Please.
Thank you, Chairman Roberts, for your dedication and volunteers service for so many years, and thank you, other commissioners. I will be very brief. My name is Andy Blair, Nashville, Tennessee. I met and talked with many of you in the past, but I rise in support of mainly the storefront window replacement option in every, with more of a historic window and the look that they're trying to go through in every historic rendering or photograph I've seen from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. The window that they are trying to, or the door that is there currently that they're trying to replace with more of the historic window has always been a window opening. That it usually had landscaping down in front of it, but usually has always been a window opening that's been more of a 36 pane, 18 over 18 window. So I'm in strong support of it being replaced, refilling in the brick below and replacing it more with a historic window, and to match more the look of the rest of the front of the factory. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens who wish to comment on this application? Then, hearing none, we need a motion, and let's do this in several motions. One, the first one would be dealing with the awnings, and that's on the front and on that side where that just straight aluminum awning is. So if we could do that one first, and then we'll move on to the storefront replacement, and then to the patio door replacement, and lastly, the skylight. So we're going, 4 motions. I think that'll be a little clearer to all. So if we could deal, the first one with the awnings.
I move for approval of the replacement of the awnings with staff conditions.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mary. Any discussion? Ready to vote on that then? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. All right, now, storefront replacement. And this would be to fill in the non-historic floor-to-ceiling window with a reclaimed window with reclaimed brick. Is there a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve as proposed by the applicant.
I would second that.
And since that does go against the staff recommendation, Emma, do you have that photograph that we know is at least from 1961? Can you zoom in on that corner? Just to support what one of our public comments has said, there was a window very similar to that, right in that very spot. And I think what they're going back with would be very appropriate to what was there historically.
I would concur. It really adds to the fabric of the front of the building.
And they're using an original salvaged window.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think with the photographic support, that makes it, that's why I would feel comfortable going against staff's recommendation as well.
Any other comments? Ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Next one is the patio door replacement. Motion on that one. Don't everybody speak at once.
Can I ask a question before a motion is moved?
Yeah.
Why is it necessary to replace the single door with double doors? How can you not just replace the single
That's
door?
good.
Right. Thank you for the question. That's something I forgot to mention, but this patio door would be the only access from the restaurant to the patio area. And the patio area is quite significant. It can service up to 70 guests. And so doing that with a single door would be very, very challenging. And so that's why we're proposing a double patio door.
You're going to utilize that patio, is what you,
That's right.
that's the key reason.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve as proposed, if only just to have more discussion about it.
And your reason, since that's,
I think it's consistent with what we've seen in other places on the building. And I think this is one of those necessities. I think we, as a community, are excited to have some action at this corner. And if the double doors helps that happen, then I think that makes sense to me from a utilitarian standpoint.
okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other discussion?
So the only thing I would add to the discussion is that I can see that. I can see how it could be more utilitarian because you have the double doors, but you're probably not going to have both doors open all the time. The concern that I have is in the past, whenever they made these openings larger, we had to replace most of the window above it. So it actually destroyed the historic character of the windows. And since we have a door that can be replaced to be a steel door rather than aluminum, I would feel better erring on the side of caution than losing the historic material.
Mr. Chair, that was the part of the staff's report that really got me as well, is the fact that it's not necessarily limiting it to the portions of the window where you're enlarging the door to the side, but compromising the structure above, so.
Well, go ahead. That's not your preferred way to do it. Your preferred way is to simply replace the doors.
That's right. So another issue, if we were just to replace this anodized door, is we may very well run into the same issue, which is replacing what's above if that existing window system is not strong enough.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. So,
But couldn't you just replace the door only, just remove the hinges and put a new door on?
Right. And that is essentially, we're going to run into that same issue because the existing frame has not been done properly. And so there's a chance that if we do replace that single door, we would still need to replace what's above that.
Susan, you had a quick comment.
I would have to say I can't support this motion. I feel like you need to go slow. And if you get in there and one door doesn't work, then you can come back and just say, this isn't working. But I think making that decision and changing that historic fabric, to me, I can see that this is kind of a house of cards, and it could really not work out very well.
Any other comments? Ready to vote then? Let's have a show of hands on this one. So all in favor of the motion to approve the patio door replacement as shown, please raise your hand. That's 3. All opposed? Okay, that's 5. 5-3 then on that.
I just wanted to say to the applicant that I think what Ms. Besser brings up is a good point, to just go one step at a time and kind of see what you find along the way, rather than going from A to Z all at once, just going slowly.
Right. And, I think the issue of, servicing 70 people through a single door is going to remain, whether the window system is strong enough or not. It's going to be very, very challenging, if not technically impossible, to do that through a single door.
So we voted on it, but let me ask the commission this. Is the issue a single versus a double door? Is that an issue? Okay, it's just the support above the double doors. That's the concern of the 5 that voted against it, right?
And it may be that some additional, analysis of the likelihood to compromise those windows above would be helpful from a comfort standpoint. The commission, I can't speak for everybody else, but I think that is, for me, the concern.
So there's an opportunity for you to come, if you could do some more work on this and then come to design review next Monday, that might be a way to deal with this.
I'm not sure if I could provide you with some sort of analysis that tells you whether that frame is strong enough, because unless you remove that existing window and you really get into that, it's going to be very, very hard, almost impossible for us to tell you whether this is a strong enough frame.
I would make the suggestion, to have someone see if they could engineer a way to structurally support what's above it, and then you might come better being able to put two doors in. But I believe that there's a way to engineer that to actually provide more of a header support.
I'm sure, yes, I agree with you. I'm sure this is possible, but I think at this point it would be a cost issue.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. Chair, is there one that's been completed at the factory where,
We've done several
I
of these
know,
like
if
this.
we could be provided with kind of a case history of how that's worked and how it ended up looking?
I would check with Holiday Properties and just see, there've been some other modifications of these windows and doors over there. And that might be a good way to deal with this.
But I appreciate you telling what the complications could be. I appreciate that.
And I think everybody understands that you're going to use this patio, which has not been used in, I don't know, ever. So I think that's great. So we just need to work out with a comfortable solution to this. So let's go on to the skylights. Is there a motion on the skylights?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the skylights.
Thank you.
And my
so-
reason for going against staff is that this is a commercial building. If you go into the factory, you notice that as a commercial, older, early 1920s building, they provided for a lot of light. And they're almost like skylights that you have at the top that can be opened. And skylights have been added in the past. And because they're removing mechanicals that are currently on the top, I think this is very unobtrusive. I think it's appropriate for this commercial application.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Scott. I would concur with that, plus the fact the visibility, if anything, is limited from both Franklin Road and from Liberty Pike of those skylights. So I think that's, plus the fact, I think in this particular spot, we need to be a little flexible with our guidelines, as we have been, and I think that continues to be the case with this project. So anyway, I think that's certainly appropriate. All right, any other comments? Ready to vote? All in favor then of the approval of the skylights, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Oh,
I'm
no.
opposing, I'm a no.
Okay, that's approved at 7-1. Susan, a no. Okay, that's it, thank you. I think we're,
Mr. Chair, I think I'm not sure
Did we
we ever
miss
got,
one?
no, we never got affirmative action one way or the other on
patio
the
door?
patio doors.
I thought we did.
We'll either have to defer them or deny them, but we just voted on an
we did.
approval.
Huh?
We just voted on an approval, and it was defeated.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's great, thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. That's right. All right, then we
Sorry.
need another motion on the patio door replacement to defer or defeat.
I would make the motion to defer it to the next
To the January meeting.
meeting and encourage them to come to design review.
I would second that.
All right, any discussion?
Well, just a question for the applicant. I mean, can you have an answer by the next design review commission meeting?
Next Monday.
As far as whether the frame would be strong enough to hold,
Or
I can
whether
try.
there's another.
I can try, yes.
Yeah, or whether there's another option.
Okay.
I think that's the kind of the gist.
And maybe also look at how
Other-
one's been completed
Right,
and
right.
bring a picture.
I will have that.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? All in favor of deferral of that then to the January meeting, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. All right, let's go to the next one. Consideration of addition principal and accessory structure at 328 Franklin Road. Emily.
So, this proposal has several components to it. I'll first start off with the accessory structure relocation. And so there is an existing accessory structure to the rear of the property, and the proposal it shows is to rotate the structure 90 degrees so that the garage door is no longer facing the rear of the principal building and will face the side of the lot. As proposed, the relocation of the existing accessory structure is not supported within the guidelines. The next section, let me scroll to the part of the addition. So the next is principal building alterations. So let me scroll to that page. Okay. So the application includes the proposal to install a duck canvas awning over the front door, which is appropriate within the guidelines. Additionally, there is a proposal to install a screen door, and it will fit into the existing screened panels and will match the existing pattern. This is appropriate within the guidelines. And there is a proposal to restore the trim work around the front door, and this is also appropriate within the guidelines. Then, moving to the final section is the proposal includes an addition at the rear of the principal building that will include an addition that will connect the existing accessory structure after it is relocated. Once the principal building is connected to the accessory structure, then the footprint of the accessory structure becomes part of the existing principal building. With the historic accessory structure becoming part of the principal building by an addition, the addition equates to 55.52% of the historic building's footprint, which includes the garage. As proposed, the proposal does not meet the intent of the guidelines. Additionally, the guidelines address that the dormer roof pitch should be at least 3/12 and no less than half the main roof pitch. The proposed dormer roof pitch is 1/12, which does not meet the guidelines. The proposed materials meet the intent of the guidelines except for the use of the rubber membrane roof on the rear shed dormer. On the rear of the new addition, 4 skylights are proposed. The proposed skylights are appropriate within the guidelines. Staff recommends approval of the awning, new screen door, and the restoration of the trim work around the door on the principal building with conditions. Additionally, staff recommends denial of the proposal to move the historic accessory structure and the addition to the principal building. Thank you.
Okay. Applicant?
I'm Kara Christensen from Garden Gate Homes. Matt is here as well if you have build questions, so we're here just to answer your questions. We've been through design review a couple times. I would just like to note that the reason we're asking for the garage to be rotated and attached to the home is the homeowner bought this large property with 3 lots, but through zoning requirements and historical requirements, it was very hard to meet both. And so in order to give her a variance, the house, for some reason, I think the city had it down as 1 lot because it was a 35-foot setback they had on the lot, but the house is on a 14-foot setback. So it didn't meet from the start. So they had her take 3 lots into 1 in order to be in compliance with zoning, just to put the addition on. So it was just very hard to come up with a solution to meet zoning, meet historical, and have the homeowner happy. So this is what we came up with, is moving the garage. You can't see the garage from the road. I think many of you were surprised it was even there. And so we're just rotating it, keeping it, we talked about that in design review, making sure we keep it intact and historically accurate. So rotating it, attaching it, it solves everybody's problems, hopefully.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
All
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry, metal roof. We have rubber roof noted, and it was noted at the end of our last design review meeting, because we took that slope down and made it smaller per your recommendation, we are able to make that a metal roof and back instead of rubber. We did confirm that with the architect.
Are any citizens wish to comment on this application? Hearing none, we need a motion, and let's do this in 1, 2, 3 motions. So let's do, number 1 would be the principal building alterations, and number 2 would be the accessory building, and then we'll get to the grand finale, which is the, whatever it is, the addition, yeah. So the principal building alterations, which is the awning, the screen door installation, and the front door trim restoration. Is there a
I
mo-
would move to approve with staff comments.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's a start. All right, the accessory building relocation, accessory structure relocation. There a motion on that? There's pondering going on.
Mr. Chair, can we ask a question of staff before?
Yeah,
a
sure.
motion? So did I understand the way this was structured, that in moving the garage, that all of a sudden it becomes part of the footprint of the original structure, and then the addition is based on the 50% is taken from combining those two together?
You're correct, but since it is connected by a heated and cooled addition breezeway, then it does become part of the footprint of the principal building.
So it does become part?
And I'll follow up on that a little bit. It does from a zoning perspective. It becomes part of the principal structure from a zoning perspective. The intent of the guideline, though, is to make sure that an addition doesn't read, or that an addition reads as subordinate to the main structure, which is the house. So it isn't typical that a garage that's connected by an addition be included in the percentages for an addition for the overall house. It's really a unique circumstance.
And Ms. Dannenfelser, if I could follow up on that. So if all this were to be approved, then would they still have the ability, because that's no longer an accessory structure, to come back and ask for another accessory structure
Yes,
separate from what was an accessory structure but now is part of the home?
yes.
Okay. And is it true that they had to do something because of the side setback? I know I'm the setback guy who keeps asking questions about this, but there was that comment about consolidating the lots in order to be able to make an addition.
There was, this was a pre-existing condition. This house was built and the garage was built long
Right.
before current zoning. And so they did come in for a variance to allow for that, for the lot to have minimum reduced setbacks.
Okay. Thank you.
I need a little clarity, please.
I feel like this lot is so large for this house that I don't have a problem with it going over the percentage. I do have a problem with starting to say that was part of the historic fabric. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't have any problem with this. I wouldn't have a problem if the garage stayed where it was and was connected and maybe part of that was a porch, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. The only thing where I'm like, what is saying something's moved and then counting it as the historic fabric? Because this is such a large lot and a small house. I just don't have a problem in this
All right, so
situation.
are you making a motion then that it be approved to relocate it?
If
That's
we,
what I'm hearing.
yeah, if we
All right.
could take out, I just
Well,
don't
let's get,
like
let's
the
get the motion done and
commentary.
then we can, if you're making.
I would like to approve it on what the real overage is. And I don't know what that is.
We'll talk about
So
that.
I'm not
Let's have a
making the
second and then
motion.
we'll figure out that.
I'll second that.
All right,
With
thank you,
comments.
Scott.
So under discussion, that would mean then that the addition would be 78.56% of the historic footprint of the building, not including the garage that's now part of the addition.
That's correct. That is correct. That's the number.
Okay, not including the garage.
Not included.
Well, the garage becomes a part of.
The main
of
building, yeah,
The
the
overall addition, but it's not it's not included in the original footprint. To calculate the 55%, it becomes
the-
78%.
So,
Here, Mayor, let me
Okay.
try to explain.
thank you.
The original footprint of the main house, as it is today, is 1,796 square feet.
Feet.
Okay, then that addition that they want to put on there without the accessory structure being located is 1,411 square feet, and that's 78.5. If they put the addition, they move the accessory structure in to that, that's 745 square feet, and it comes up to be 2,541 total square feet, and which the addition would be 55 and a half square feet, or 55.5%.
So,
So you're 5.5 percentage points over with that.
sorry.
No, that's right.
So what then, if this all happens and there's an accessory structure, how many more, I'm looking at you all. Sorry if you don't know it, it's okay, I'm not expecting you to. But my perhaps rhetorical question is, what does that make the size of the new accessory structure?
Half of 2,541. So another roughly 1,250 square feet more.
And
footprint.
the size
they
of the
put in.
lot is,
Whatever it is, it's small.
how-
I know.
It's big,
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
yeah.
I just need some clarification from staff. You said that typically a garage, which is not heated or cooled, is not considered part of the main structure. But you said in this circumstances it is. What's the difference between the circumstances than normally having a not freestanding, but a garage that's not heated and cooled, which appraisers, nobody includes in the square footage of a home?
Those comments are really referring to how the garage is attached. So if the garage is attached by a breezeway that's open, it's not heated and cooled, then that's just attached, and it's still considered an accessory structure, but attached by a breezeway. When it all becomes enclosed space with the garage, then that becomes part of the principal structure,
Even though it's not heated or cooled?
even though that's not heated and cooled, correct?
Okay. Thank you. That clears it up.
All right, other comments?
I had a comment to answer your question on the lot size. I think with the addition, this still is only a 3.2, like under 4% of the entire lot. So
Yeah, it's on
we're
this.
talking
and
a
the
small
entire
house
lot
with a
is,
very
do you
large.
remember the
Do you have
size?
the
Wait a minute,
size
here
of
it
the
is.
lot? It's on your paperwork, but do you
Yeah,
know
it's
it?
on, it's in.
Yeah.
I think it's 3 acres, is that?
Yeah.
It's almost 3 acres, not quite.
And
Do
so
you want
I see
specific?
this as an outlier. I just don't like the justification being that the garage is historic fabric. That is all I'm trying to communicate. I don't like going down that road.
I think that sets a bad precedent.
I do too.
Let's just move the accessory structure over and attach it, and then we'll have we can get a bigger square footage. I, like you, don't care for that. I think.
But I have no problem with going over the square footage as shown.
Great. to your comment, that when we worked with zoning, it's because sometimes that garage under roof is counted towards your square footage rules, and sometimes it's not. So when it came to an accessory structure, if it was over 200 square feet under roof, whether it was just a garage or part of your house, whatever it was, you couldn't have. So I understand what you're talking about. It's the same problems we've discussed with all the different people involved over many months' time, just to.
I would just like to approve it, not saying that moving the garage expands the historic fabric.
And in other words, just acknowledge the real overage and the fact that the
That's right.
percentage on the lot is so tiny.
That's right.
It's
As we-
4.8%.
It's a very unique situation.
And I can recall other situations where we've approved overages and the lot size was
That's right.
way more. I mean, the coverage was way more than what's proposed here. So
And if moving the garage, because of other codes issues makes this achievable, I'm okay.
And as far as relocation, 99% of the time, I stand with the guidelines that, it's best not to relocate accessory
Right.
structures. We're talking about a 1970s ranch-style house, talking about the very rear of the house. One thing that I think is great for the historic form of it is it about mirrors somewhat of the front-facing gable on the front, almost like an accessory to the side, and it's still being used as a garage. It still has its original use.
Right. And I think this house really tells a story of Franklin developing over time. So I'm thrilled to death that we're keeping the look of that ranch house. I think it's important.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second on moving the accessory, to approve moving the accessory building. Is
And does
there
the
other
mo-
discussion?
does the motion reflect Commissioner Pierce's desire for it to state the actual percentage over?
It hasn't so far.
But
Okay.
is the motion just to move the
Yes,
structure? So it
yes.
has nothing to do with the square footage of the addition?
Oh, that's
No.
right. That's right.
No.
Okay.
No, because you've got to, in order to deal with that, you got to put
Pass
the two
this.
together.
Right.
All right, so.
Okay. Here we go.
Could you repeat the motion that's being,
The motion that I have written down is to approve the relocation of the accessory structure as presented, period. And
Mary,
in
would you
doing
like to
that,
amend
you have
that?
achieved a new footprint of 2,500, I'm sorry, you have, it would be, wait a minute. I don't have that particular square footage on that accessory building somewhere. I didn't write that down.
Well, does
We've
this-
got a new footprint, if we put it together, we've got a new footprint of 2,541 square feet.
I think that's the question is, we're just voting on the relocation,
Yeah.
and not the addition. So
No,
we're not at
we're not.
2,500 square feet yet.
Yeah,
No.
but we're,
We're just turning a garage.
we're about to
Yeah.
turn the
And
garage. and
Ms.
Yeah.
Pierce needs to state the reason she's going against staff's.
And the reason
Recommendation.
I'm going against staff is that I feel like this is a very unique lot and a very unique situation in that we've got a very, a small house on 3 acres. And I do not believe it is hurting the integrity of the house from Franklin Road.
Okay, because of the unique lot and situation and not affecting the integrity of the house on Franklin Road. That's what I just
The
heard you
view
say.
shed from Franklin Road, yes, of the house.
Okay. Then any other discussion on that? Susan?
I will not be able to support this.
Okay. Any other discussion? Then all in favor of that motion to relocate the building as Ms. Pierce has refined it, please raise your hand. Okay, and Ms. Besser is a no. So it's 7-1. All right, now we have put them together. So we're ready now for a motion to deal with the addition to the footprint, which is now 2,541 square feet. And the addition is 1,411 square feet. So it's 55% of that new footprint. If everybody, that's where we are on that. So is there?
Well, that's
a
if it's connected.
That's
right?
connected.
Because it's
We
not
ju- yeah, we
connected
just-
yet.
We just put them together when we relocated it. So now you've got a new footprint of 2,541 square feet.
They're not, no, they're, until they build the addition.
They're not
Between the two, they're not connected. Based on the floor
Oh,
plans.
There's a gap.
You're right, you're right, you're right,
Yes,
you're right.
yes, sir.
You're right.
So sorry, go ahead.
But in theory, they are connected because this is the plan before us, which they wish to construct.
I can't hear you, Scott.
So in theory, in my opinion, in theory, they are connected because they presented a plan showing the attachment of both buildings, and that will be what construction documents will be presented. So it may not currently be, but the whole goal here is to connect both buildings and put the addition.
I guess the point is we have yet to approve the
True.
connection because there's no addition to connect them yet. So
Mr.
that's-
Chair.
That's what's on the
Okay.
floor here.
May I ask a question of staff, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair? So to Commissioner Pierce's point, her concern is that the building relocation gives a bigger number that then they can take the percentage of. Since it's not connected yet, is it appropriate when considering the addition to look at the original structure, since the accessories may be approved to be relocated but is not yet connected, to just look at the primary house for our percentage calculations?
So the addition is 78.5% of the principal building, which is the way that it should read under the intent of the guidelines, because you're looking at the percentage of an addition compared to the historic original footprint. This one is 78.5%, not including the garage.
And I think that perfectly addresses Commissioner
It
Pierce's
does.
and some of the other concerns, such that if we approve it, we're approving 78%, not a falsely created 55% number. Thank you. I think that's very helpful.
All right, is there a motion then?
I would move to approve. And the reason that I would go against staff on this is because of the very large lot that the house is on, that the front-facing view of the house along Franklin Road is being protected. And I just see it as a very unique situation. There's just, I would say, a handful of something like this in the overlay. I'm trying to think of another one.
Is there a second to Mary's motion?
Second.
Thanks, Scott. All right, discussion.
Mr. Chair, I will not be able to approve this motion.
So I'm still unclear about the percentages and what we're talking about. So if I take the current square footage of the principal building at 1796 and multiply that by the 78%, I get around 1,400. So that's what we're talking about on the addition. But by moving the actual garage, now it's part of the addition and not the principal footprint. So if we keep that in, we're talking about 2156. So that's a larger percentage than 78% of the original footprint.
That's right.
And that's just what I think we need to understand that in what's approved.
I agree. We need to understand it. We need, I think, to acknowledge that when you move the garage, you're not extending the historic fabric of the house. Now, if you left the garage just like it was, did an addition to it, I could see that. But in this configuration, I think if you're voting for this, you are supporting that a very large addition.
Because even at 90%, I mean, you're talking about 1,600 square feet. But altogether, with the accessory structure, it's 2,156. I mean, we're talking about a very large addition.
That's right.
Would that not include the original accessory structure as part of the historical, though? Are you, I'm making sure I understand to be able to
So
communicate.
that, it
to
has
the
been, it has
Come
been a
up
bit
with your numbers
confusing.
again. Go through your numbers again. You got a house that's 1,796 now. You got an addition that's 1,411.
So 17, take the 1796,
Right.
multiply it by 78%, and what do you get?
I don't have my.
I got about 1,400 square feet, which
Okay,
is what,
1,400, oh yeah, 1,411 square feet. All right.
but if you add
Is the percentage of the addition.
of the addition, that's right.
That's right, 78 and a half square feet, or percentage. Okay.
So we're
that-
not including within the addition the garage. We're letting the garage.
That's right. That's, okay, I'm with
be
you.
on
I'm
its own.
with
Is
you.
that
That's
what
what I,
we're-
okay, that's
is
what
that
I'd
what-
come up with before.
I'm just trying to understand myself.
No, I'm with you. Those were the numbers I'd come up, but I'd put the garage together is what I had done to come up with the 55 and a half.
Right at 80%.
Yeah, 78 and a half. 1,411, right?
80.178174.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
this is quite a unique situation. I don't know that we've contemplated a proposal quite like this before. But it is a relatively small original house on a very large lot. And we know that whichever number we go with, because this is a guideline, so it's really about the intent, that it does far exceed the 50%
That's
that's
right.
typical.
That-
So that's really what you all are considering tonight.
That's right.
Thank you for being rational with that explanation.
Very nicely said.
So it's either 55 and a half or 78 and a half or 80 something, but it's over.
Yeah.
So,
And one of the factors we've considered previously is the size of the lot.
Yes.
And the home and how it's
without,
situated on the
without
size of
question,
the lot.
we have,
If and when we've gone over, when we've gone over.
when we've gone over.
When we've
When
gone
we've gone
over.
over. All right, any other discussion? Mary's motion is to approve it.
What I was going to talk specifically about the architecture a little bit. These houses are very challenging because they're low slung roofs, so it's hard to hide anything behind. And this is a challenge we see in practice, and I think we'll see more of as this kind of vintage house rolls into kind of a historic status. And so some of the things like the really kind of flat dormer on the back, as the guidelines say, that's not exactly what we're looking for. But on these types of houses, there's not a lot of options because there's just not a whole lot of attic space. There's not a lot of roof mass to hide behind. So I think what you've come up with is reasonable. When I look at the front of the house, almost everything you're proposing is not visible from the road. I mean, you're going to
That's
have to
right.
look really hard. So in that regard, I think you all have done a really good job. I think it meets that intent that you've protected that kind of historic silhouette, which I hope the community hears that, not that we don't, like these particular things. It's to
Right.
me, there's a design process here that has had a really challenging time with a small house. So, and the other thing I want to say is these particular houses we're going to see more of are the ones that really need the additions most.
That's
So
right.
people who have buy these smaller houses on these bigger lots, it can be sort of punitive because more than a lot of other families, they need more space because the house is so small.
I agree.
But the rules are written to make it difficult to kind of double or make the footprint bigger. And these are the houses that really need a doubling, and it's still not going to be a big giant house. So because of that, I can kind of concede to the idea that this meets the kind of overarching guise of the guidelines, but specifically if we break it apart, it maybe doesn't, but I'm okay with that.
And I think it still is telling our community story of what happened in Franklin over time, because we have one of our oldest houses, and then we have coming up into the mid-century of what was being built.
Okay, any other comments? Ready to vote? Let's do a raise your hand vote. And all in favor of the motion to approve, Mary's motion to approve, please raise your hand. And then opposed? Susan opposed. 7-1. Okay, I think that's it. Emily?
We had suggested conditions
Oh,
that the new windows must consist of wood or composite wood to meet the guidelines, and then the normal two that are on there.
okay.
And did
Can
we
I-
vote on the skylights? Were they included in the addition?
Yes, should have been. I believe so. The skylights were in there, right?
Well,
Yeah, yes.
Should we have
Yes.
another motion to
You
take
want-
care of this roof
Yes.
membrane and the
All right.
yes.
okay, so I can move that the dormer roof be metal as proposed, or the amended proposal, and that all staff conditions be met.
I'll second that.
Making sure I didn't miss anything.
Thank you. Keeping me straight. All right, Tyler and motioned and Brian seconded. Any further discussion?
Does that mean is the style of the awning coming back to staff in this?
We just had that it should, the awning color shall be complementary to the building as a
Well-
condition that was approved earlier.
In
It-
this second motion, I would like to add that
So
the
you want to
awning.
amend, you want to amend it?
Amendment that the awning also come back to staff for approval.
Design and color?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a second to Mary's motion, amendment motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, amendment passes. Then we're back to the main motion, dormer roof be metal and all staff comment conditions be met. Any discussion on that? All in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. What else did we miss, or did I miss?
Well, Mr. Chair, did we say what color the aluminum roof was going to be?
No. You don't want a color. You
It's
don't
just
wanna
going to
do
be
color.
aluminum.
Huh?
Okay.
Yeah. Let's don't get into color. Please.
So as it stands, it's aluminum in color.
It is aluminum.
Or is it a metal roof?
Metal, are you?
It'd be metal according to the motion that Tyler
Metal.
made.
And metal can
Metal
be
roof.
all kind of different colors.
For the back dormer, is that what you're talking about, the back dormer?
Staff
And
may
pop, of course.
prefer that a general color, whether that be a dark tone or a galvanized tin color, be identified.
What does the client want?
Or does the applicant
What is
know
the,
what
what does the
color?
client want? What do you want?
I believe it would not be galvanized because you want this to blend in and not
Yes.
stick out. That would be more farmhouse.
How
This
about
is not
dark
farmhouse.
bronze?
So like a bronze color, bronze family, to match the,
Burnished
The-
slate is the most
Yeah, there you
popular
go.
color.
to match the existing
Do you
roof
wanna
color
make
as
that-
best as
Well,
possible.
it's gonna come back to staff anyway.
For the
All
color?
staff conditions, unless you want to go for another motion. I think
Yeah,
I'm,
I would go for another motion.
all right, fire.
Can you make that motion?
You want me
I'll
to?
second it. You make it.
Okay, that the metal roof be a bronze or a dark bronze slate, bronze color to tie in with the roof.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
To blend, all right. All right, any other comments on that? All in favor of that motion?
Was there a
please?
second?
Yeah,
There was.
Brian.
Okay,
Brian.
okay.
All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that it? Because my page is filled up.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is consideration of new construction at 1841 William Campbell Court, Magnolia Hall subdivision, Lot 5.
Okay. This proposal includes the construction of a two-story cross-gabled residence with Queen Anne architectural styled features. The height of the proposed building has been decreased since the last Historic Zoning Commission meeting and is now subordinate to Magnolia Hall. And staff recommends approval of this application with conditions. Thank you.
That was short and sweet. Okay, Mr. Hathaway.
All right, thank you. Mike Hathaway, 906 Studio Architects. We appreciate all the hard work that's gone into getting these to where they are today, and we believe every time we've modified, it's gotten better, in our opinion. So we appreciate y'all's patience. We've worked really hard to design houses that will respect the Magnolia Hall property, and have been blessed to be a part of that renovation as well, and look forward to seeing the compilation of all this together, being something we can all be proud of. A couple of main points that we made during DRC, if you weren't here for that. As we were looking at the importance of height relative to Magnolia Hall, we decided it was important to go out and actually measure and confirm the height, because we'd gotten down to a matter of inches. So in going back and measuring from the inside all the way through, including the attic space that we were able to walk through and get a height measurement from, our original height of 33 feet had actually been 34.9. So that wasn't our intention to be deceitful at all. Believe me, hopefully you guys know me well enough to know that. This was just our confirming that, knowing again that it was important in this discussion. So that's the red line, sort of the glass ceiling that we've created out here on this site, and have designed everything to be under that. So as you see these three applications, they're all designed to be under that relative height. So if you took a glass line, a plane from the top of Magnolia Hall underneath that top structure, that line all the way through the site, all the homes are below that. We also looked at massing, as that was discussed several times. And relative just to these first three, we are at, in comparison to Magnolia Hall, when we looked at just the mass of the face, not the roof, but the mass of the face, in comparison, we are 65% on Lot 5, 84% of the mass on Lot 6, and 65% of the mass on Lot 4, or Lot 8. So we believe in all our modifications to the elevations, we've decreased the mass. You also mentioned several times that you wanted it to be simpler in design, and you know that we've removed several turrets. We put those in the back of our office in case we need to use them for other projects, but they have been removed from this project. And we've also simplified the details on several of the houses. So we agree with staff comments and recommendations for approval and would appreciate your positive vote.
Okay, are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application? Hearing none, we need a motion from the commission.
Move for approval with staff conditions.
I'll second that.
Okay, comments?
The only comment I would want to ask the applicant, on the left elevation, when you get to, toward the rear, is it possible for that last piece to be a different material, just because it's such a long side?
You're talking about past that raised roof area?
Yes, sir.
To the back? I think we can definitely provide that, yes,
Where
ma'am.
exactly are you talking about, Mary?
Okay, if you go to,
To the left of that single window?
it says 2030, and it's a window, and then there's just a blank piece,
Oh, wait a minute.
and I'm assuming
You
this
said
is
on the left side, right?
left elevation.
Yeah, okay.
Left elevation.
Far left on that.
Oh, 203, okay, 203. I got it, all right.
And probably wrap around that corner.
Sure.
Is this is wood siding?
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe if it were painted brick or something, that's just a very long run.
Yes, ma'am. Happy to look at that.
So, you want to make an amendment then?
I seem to be the
Amendment person for the
person
evening.
for
That's
the
fine.
evening. So I would make an amendment
All right,
that the rear from the
Left.
break in the last window on the left elevation and around that corner, and change to a brick material
May I make a comment regarding
that could be painted. Yes.
wait a minute, wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Let's get a second on that.
Okay.
But I want you to describe it again, at the left rear elevation.
Yes, sir, the last
I've
section.
got the area, and the wraparound on the, from that corner of.
Well, I would
between
leave
it-
that to the discretion. I think it's going to.
So in
they're
that
gonna-
plane then on the left?
Yeah, on that plane, yes, sir. To the garage.
Mr. Chairman, can we make a comment before?
Sure.
Let me get a second on this first.
Okay, sorry.
Is there a second to that? I'm not
I'll
hearing.
second that.
Oh, Josh, okay. Josh bailed you out, Mary. All right, now, Mike,
Okay. Matt, do you want to make?
Matt,
Yes, please. Typically, if we do a secondary material, we like to do in terms of its weight and perceived mass, a lighter or lesser material. So the primary material on this house is siding. So that would be, in my opinion, incongruous to have the rear portion, which is a secondary or tertiary mass of the house, be brick. So may I suggest that perhaps we consider keeping the material as a wood or wood-looking cladding, but perhaps a different style or pattern or type of cladding. Would that be
Just-
acceptable?
Yeah, just, what I was hoping to achieve is just that being such a long run. I wouldn't, the solution I would respect.
a
it-
different material
Area.
is what you're.
Or a
motion.
different wood treatment, yes.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
would second that, Mary, if that was your change to your
Or
motion.
you want,
Is it an amendment to the amendment?
no, I think we're just recategorizing,
We're
we're
at-
restating the.
Yeah, we're restating the
We had-
amendment.
yeah.
Well, would an inset accomplish the same goal rather than a change in material?
It would. I was just trying to make it as uncomplicated as possible for the applicant.
Another question that I wondered, when you look at the site plan, which shows all the lots with the houses side by side, I mean, how visible is that going to be on the back?
Not very.
Not very.
Yeah, you would have to stand in between the houses and look look down the gap there and to be able to see anything, and it's still would be hard to recognize. And somebody might call the cops on you if you're there too long.
Looks to me like it'd be very hard to see.
Yeah, me too.
And I hope it would be. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's what you tried to do.
All right, so let's restate. Let me make sure we're clear on your amendment. I've got left elevation on the rear plane be a different material. Is that,
No.
all right?
Be a different, what did you all say?
Treatment.
A different.
Treatment,
Treatment.
Treatment?
A different treatment.
semantics.
Yes.
All right, are you okay with that, Josh?
Yes.
Is there any other discussion on that?
I have a
Susan.
point. I think this is putting an undue pressure on the applicant. I don't think it's really necessary in trying to change materials and come up with something that is, because you typically have, it's stone, brick, and then wood.
Yes.
And so I think that I don't think it's really necessary, quite frankly.
I tend to agree with Ms. Besser.
I do too.
Okay.
I think the blankness of that wall is kind of what is, it's just a lot of wall, and then there's a big section that doesn't have a window or anything. If anything, I could see another little window being put in there, but it's somebody's motor court on the other side of that, and it's all the way in the back. I think it's well enough left alone, in my opinion. But
Okay, any other comments on it before we vote on the amendment? Then, all in favor of Mary's amendment, please raise your hand.
Oh, I'll have to be for it.
I'll be for it since I seconded it.
Yeah.
Two. All right, all against, raise your hand. All right, that fails. Good try. So do we have any other, we have a motion to approve with a fail, without the amendment. So
Well-
is there any other conversation? Any
Well,
other comment?
I think what Tyler said about the window, I just didn't pull that out of my head. If you look at all the site plan, that is the longest uninterrupted side. So I will just make that comment. In the development.
I think that's a closet.
I
So,
think it's a his and hers.
yeah,
not both.
we could add a high window there. if
Yeah, that'd be
that-
great.
That'd
Then-
be not an issue.
there's one shown in
If that
the
helps.
his closet on the elevation, but not the plan. And if there was a matching hers,
That's
it
not
would
a,
make the wall look better.
yeah,
I
not a
think
problem.
hers
We're
is
happy to
on-
do that.
Hers is on the back of the house. Her closet's on the back of the house.
Right, right.
All right, anything else? Is anything else for anybody on this one? Then all in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's
Thank
that one.
Okay.
The next one is consideration new construction, 1843 William Campbell Court, Lot 6.
This proposal includes the construction of a two-story cross-gabled house with craftsman architectural styled features. The height of the proposed building has been decreased since the last Historic Zoning Commission meeting and is now subordinate to Magnolia Hall. Staff recommends approval of this application with conditions. Thank you.
Mr. Hathaway.
All right, Mike Hathaway, 906 Studio again. We are in agreement with staff conditions with the exception of two. We had a discussion about the smaller brackets. I think Mr. Laster brought that up for the front facade. We've reduced those brackets and feel like that the scale and proportion of those are now more appropriate. So we'd ask to remove that recommendation. And then number 2 or 3 is the small dormer. When we submitted it before, there were 2 gables. We just have 1 gable now, and are concerned that if we don't have some element there, that dormer creates some interest on that extended porch section. So we would like to maintain that. Would not want to have a negative vote if you guys feel strongly about that. Obviously, it's we want to proceed and continue on, but it would be our request that be kept on the elevation. Otherwise, we agree with staff comments and appreciate your vote.
Okay, are there any citizens which comment on this application? Hearing none, we need a motion then from the commission.
I recommend approval with staff comments, but eliminating recommendation number 2 and recommendation number 3.
I'm sorry. Yep, I didn't,
Excuse me. I recommend approval
okay.
with staff conditions excluding recommendation number 2 and recommendation number 3. I agree that the small dormer will assist in keeping the architectural features that will help break up the flow of that side of the house. The brackets, I just don't think I think you've already minimized them in size currently already, so in essence, they've been done. But that's my reason for recommending removing those 2 items.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Lisa. Comments?
If you look at the historic inspirations for this, I would be for removing the dormer on that front elevation. Otherwise, everything the same. So I will make that as an amendment. I hate making another amendment, but I will.
Okay. Is there a second to Mary's amendment to remove the approval of the dormer on the left front addition, or left front of the building?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the amendment?
Those are very characteristic in new subdivisions, and I think this isn't wanting to read as a new subdivision.
All right, any other comments on that? Then, all in favor of Mary's motion, please, or amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, that amendment passes. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I would like to make an amendment to minimize the brackets on the front facade. I really feel like that it's dominating that facade, and I feel like that was a really good recommendation by
All
staff.
right, minimize the what?
To minimize the brackets on the front facade.
Is there a second to Susan's amendment? Any second? That's going to die then for lack of a
Well,
second.
I'll second.
All right. All right, discussion.
The only discussion I would have on that, I went back and looked at the DRC meeting in November with what was proposed, and looking at both renditions, they have been minimized some. They're not as large as they were. So we might want to give guidance as to how much smaller they should be. When we just say make them smaller.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
Regarding the brackets? The brackets hold up an extended overhang. The overhang at the front, at that porch is, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe it's 2 feet deeper than elsewhere on the house. So it's on the order of 4 feet deep. So those brackets actually serve a unique and structural purpose. And that visual expression of those brackets serve that purpose as holding up this very deep overhang. So I wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of that.
Okay,
And they have been minimized from the last time.
all right. So Susan's amendment that's proposed is to minimize the front brackets. So if we're, unless we're going to give some specifics on that, yeah,
I'm going to withdraw my amendment.
all right.
I feel like the applicant's explanation is reasonable.
Thank you. Mary, you agree with that?
Yes.
All right, we're back to the main motion then. Any other conversation? Ready to vote? All in favor of the main motion as amended with the removal of the dormer on the front elevation, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's done. Okay, last but not least, this is the new construction at 1847 William Campbell Court, Lot 8.
The proposal includes the construction of a 2-story cross-gabled residence with Tudor architectural styled features. The height of the proposed building has been decreased since last Historic Zoning Commission meeting and is now subordinate to Magnolia Hall. The guidelines recommend that infill principal buildings should not exceed the height and width ratios for windows and doors of adjacent buildings by more than 10%. The specifications for windows in the proposal were not included in this application. Staff recommends approval of this application with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hathaway.
All right, thank you. Mike Hathaway, again, 906 Studio Architects. We are in agreement with staff recommendations with the exception of item number 2. We still have the transoms over those side windows because of the height of that facade and are concerned about the amount of blank gap between the top of that window and the window above. So those transoms, I think we reduced the size of those, but they're still there. So we did hear your comments, but just didn't feel like it was appropriate to totally eliminate them. And then we've also raised the size of the door at the front to match up. You know, it's a taller door, so it matches up with the height of those side lights on either side of the door. So that's why we would ask that item number 2 of recommendation be removed.
Okay, is that it?
That's it. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your approval.
All right, any citizens to comment on this application? Hearing none, need a motion, then from the commission.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve with the staff recommended conditions with the exception of condition number 2 based on the applicant's alteration to those window sizes already in their explanation.
Second.
Thank you, Josh, and second by Scott. Discussion.
Does staff conditions include the separate building permit for the pool?
Yes, that's just a project consideration,
Okay,
but
that's a condition.
yes, sir.
All right, good.
Discussion? All right, ready to vote? Brian, you look like you're about to speak.
I'd like to hear more discussion on the windows from staff.
So within the guidelines, it says that it has to be within 10% of adjacent window sizes. So we would consider that to be Magnolia Hall. And so that information just wasn't provided. And so we had it conditioned so that it could be approved as long as the transoms were removed, and then we felt like it appeared to
be similar to Magnolia Hall. Its windows.
Is that it?
I
Tyler?
mean, yeah, I'm looking at the front elevation here and this transom situation, and you've got 10-foot ceilings. And it looks like the windows are all the way to the ceiling there. Is that the intent, pretty much? I mean, it's sort of a, you're right, if we remove the transoms, it's gonna look odd, but that's sort of a self-inflicted wound there, because you got your eaves, you know, a story and a half tall. So, in one regard, I'm like, well, it looks good with the transom scale-wise, but in the other regard, you kind of forced yourself into that through that front gable. So I don't think it's bad looking, it's just not a form we see in historic neighborhoods. Now, this is not, I mean, it's a historic neighborhood overall. I don't think we want people to recreate old houses like a Disneyland style thing. So I think it's okay in some senses. I can be on board with this, but be careful the self-inflicted
Understood.
situations.
Appreciate that.
And this lot is located kind of behind the mansion.
That's right.
And in something, I think in DRC, just as a comment before, has been that dormer. That dormer is just so wide. That would be the only thing that I would, it is a very wide dormer. I see the relationship between the door and side lights with 3, and then the 3 lights in the dormer.
Right.
But then the dormer is so wide on the sides, it's even wider than the posts are that define that area. But I just bring that up.
Yeah. It's a kind of a fine line relative to the scale.
What's the size of the fascia board on this guy? It looks like a 1x12 on the sides. I mean, it's a whopper.
Talking about the gable?
Yeah, the side gables.
Oh,
If you look at the 3D model, they are substantial.
well, we're typically doing 1x8s, so
That's bigger than, I'm just looking at the precedent images, and a lot of that Tudor style is usually sort of thin.
yeah.
And that's,
It is larger than 1x8.
that's pretty heavy duty there.
We were looking at that in terms of the overall scale, but we'd be happy to reconsider that and take a look at that, see about it.
Yeah, if you want to make that a condition, happy to look at that.
I hate amendments.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But we would look at that as well as we're further developing the documents.
You done?
I trust them to make the right call. I don't think they're gonna have a 1x12 out there, because they won't like it either.
No.
So
Okay,
I'm not
anything
that-
else? Anybody got anything else? Okay, the motion to approve then without staff recommendation 2. So hearing nothing else, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Done.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, consideration of addition, principal and new construction accessory at 112 Lewisburg Avenue.
Sir, could we just
Take
take
a 5-minute break.
5 minutes?
Please.
And Mr. Chair, I'll just announce that I'll step back from this application. I haven't been involved as I'm a nearby property owner.
On the 112 Lewisburg.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were at Franklin Grove. Okay.
You missed, all right. If we can, let's, we'll resume in about 5 minutes. How about that?
Thank you.
can.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Another 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay. We're ready, consideration of addition, principal, and new construction at 112 Lewisburg Avenue. This is Emily Huffers.
All right. So we'll start first with the addition. And the addition is proposed to be 911 square feet, which equates to 94.94% of the principal building, which meets the guidelines. Then moving to the accessory structure, if the addition to the principal building were to be approved, the total footprint would equate to 2,735 square feet. The addition would be 48.26% of the principal building, which meets the zoning ordinance. Then, on to the last portion of the application is the driveway alterations. The application includes the proposal to remove the existing driveway and install a new, wider driveway. The proposed driveway is 23 feet 5 inches, which exceeds what the zoning ordinance allows. In the Lewisburg Avenue Historic District, the typical driveway width is 9 to 12 feet at the street. The widest width on the same block face that staff found is 15 feet in width near the street. Information has not been provided on the intent of the material of the driveway. The use of asphalt or concrete would be appropriate for this property. Staff recommends denial of the driveway alterations. Additionally, staff recommends approval of the addition to the principal building and the construction of the accessory structure with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Lombard, 906 Studio. I think we were in agreement with all the staff conditions with the exception of the driveway. I think there was just a little misread on the dimension for that driveway. It's shown at 15 feet on our plans, but we didn't have that called out, so I apologize about that confusion. And we're happy to make that a little narrower, and we were proposing that be concrete as well. Appreciate your time and
So
approval.
is it, let me find this in what you just provided with us. Is this, is what we got the handout, is that showing on here?
Yeah, on the site plan, I don't think we had a dimension directly on the driveway. We had a dimension from the house to the setback that was over the driveway that I think is where that 23-foot number came from. But that's actually the full dimension from the house to that side setback,
Let
not
me
just the
find-
driveway.
Let me find the driveway in here.
Should be on that site plan sheet.
It's on,
Which one?
Page 4, Jim. Page 4.
Okay, bingo. All right, this is what this is not different than what you submitted, right?
Correct.
Okay, it's not, all right. Okay, do you have anything else then?
Nope, that was
right,
all.
Are any citizens
Thank
wish to
you.
comment on the application? Hearing none, then let's do this, commission, let's do, we'll have to break these up. Let's do addition to the main first. Let's do accessory structure second, and driveway alterations third. And, okay. So I'm ready for a motion on the addition, addition to the main house.
I move for approval with staff comments.
Second that.
Okay, discussion.
well, I think the application's very responsive to design review recommendations.
Okay. Any other comments? Ready to vote? All in favor then of the motion to approve the main house addition, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, let's go to the accessory structure.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the accessory structure at 112 Lewisburg Pike with
All right.
staff recommendations.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, discussion on that. All in favor of that, any discussion? All in favor of that motion, then please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Then driveway alterations. And I don't, where did I see? We don't have anything on, yeah, okay. You got it on the staff recommendation. Got it, never mind the question.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
how much, just for discussion, how much wider is it than the existing driveway?
So I think the existing is about 12 feet, and we're proposing 15, but we can go down from that. I'm happy to make that smaller.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask a clarifying question, I know that staff thought it was 23 feet. So does the staff's recommendation change given it, if the representation that's 15 instead of 23?
The zoning ordinance states that the maximum width is 20 feet. And so that would just, we would have to just consider that.
So it's not in violation of zoning at this point if it's
No.
15 instead of 23?
No.
I believe that's the distance of that proposed fence to the house, is that right?
Yeah, it's the distance, that 23-foot dimension that you're seeing on the site plan is the distance from the house to the setback.
That's right, to the setback.
Yep.
Well,
So it's the dotted line driveway, which is changing it, the drive.
Is the
from
existing.
Existing, is 15 feet is what that was,
The existing is 12, that dash line. The proposed is 15.
so does the existing curve like that?
It does, yes, sir.
I've never noticed that.
So it's just widening it 3 feet?
Yeah, and straightening it out.
Straightening it out.
Right.
To head to the accessory structure.
Exactly, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Okay.
And would that meet the intent of the guidelines at 15?
That is what is seen, that it's typical 9 to 12 feet, and we did find one that was adjacent that was 15 feet in width. So there is precedent within the district.
well, I would make a motion to approve with the clarification and with staff saying that it meets the intent of the guidelines now, that we know that it's 15 feet.
15 feet.
We'll do a better job of clearly
I'd second
dimensioning
that.
next time. Sorry, y'all.
And the intent is to utilize concrete?
Yes.
Okay.
And concrete, I add that to it.
So that's in
Okay.
the motion?
I heard. Yeah.
Okay.
Was there a second to that?
Yeah, Tyler.
Okay.
I did second.
All right, any other discussion on that? All in favor of that, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? None.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
All right, the last one is consideration of alterations Winstead House and Carriage House at 423 South Margin Street, Franklin Grove. Emily.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I wanted to state that I took my historic preservation class to the site last week, and so I just wanted to make that statement, but we're basically there to look at dating materials and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily?
So this proposal has several different parts to it. And so first, we're going to start on the proposed alterations to the
Let me
window.
stop. It might be helpful, as you and I did this morning, if you could color in the particular areas,
Yes, I'll try to
just so
see.
everybody, make sure we all understand.
I don't know if I'll be able to color in on this.
Okay.
But I will wiggle my mouse as best as I can.
All right.
So the first alteration is the front sun porch. And so within the application is the historic photo of the side porch that they're proposed to rebuild. And so it was previously approved in October 2022 within the past COA. And the front elevation will utilize doors that will read as windows, which is in keeping with the guidelines. And so here is, I can zoom in for us. This will not utilize any kind of exterior hardware, and so it will appear as windows. I know that was discussed at the last DRC meeting that we didn't, it was discussed that they didn't want it to appear as doors. And so having them appear as windows but utilize as doors, it meets the guidelines more. So then, moving to the next part of this application is the elevator addition. And so, let me zoom in for us. So the previous, within the October 2022 COA, it was approved to add an elevator. It was closer to the house, and so the applicant provided that whenever they had an engineer look at this, that they were concerned with digging the elevator pit and in relation to the historic home, and it might, make it not structurally sound anymore. So anyways, that is why they're proposing to build out a new elevator that is a little bit scooted out from the house. And the guidelines recommend that additions should be appropriately placed at the rear of the building and should be subordinate to the historic building. And as proposed, the elevator addition meets the guidelines and is appropriate. Next, moving on, is the rear stair addition. And so we can see it from this east elevation that they are proposing to add a portion that bumps out here a little bit, and because they have to reconfigure some of the internal stairs. And so, as proposed, the rear stair addition meets the guidelines. It is positioned at the rear and it is not seen from the front view shed. Then moving to the rear porch enclosure. The rear elevation on the proposal is proposed to enclose the rear porch with siding. And as proposed, the rear porch enclosure meets the guidelines and is appropriate. And this detailing of the rear porch was approved within the October 2022 COA. Then moving to the carriage house. If this will load. Okay. So the proposal includes an addition on the elevation where the sloped roof is to be removed. Let me scroll so we can view the sloped roof. Here's the sloped roof. As a non-historic building, the guidelines generally support the proposed alterations as the changes are designed to be in keeping with the original building and the changes improve the overall structure's appropriateness within the historic district. Staff recommends approval of the application with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm Brandon Pretty with 906 Studio Architects. Just wanted to thank everybody again for the feedback we got at DRC. We incorporated that, softened the architecture in some areas, especially at the elevator pulled that down, softened it along the back, and really appreciate staff and would agree with all recommendations and ask for your approval.
Okay, thank you. Are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application? Hearing none, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 motions. First one deals with the front sun porch.
Move for approval with staff comments.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Comments?
So I do have a comment. So I'm noticing that there is like a little patio. I'm assuming that's like a dock. It's on the front. Was that there originally in the original proposal, or is that something being added?
Yes, that was in the original design. I wouldn't call it a dock. We're not going to have any of the pieces you would associate with a dock, railing, levelers. We do, though, because that door at the FFE, it's about 3 feet up. We just need a landing to be able to, stage a small landing, to stage things, just so when that door opens, you have something to open onto.
So in what's previously approved, that was there?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I noticed there's the drive that goes.
Yes.
Has that always been the designated
Yes.
place
Yes.
for an
Yes.
entrance for art?
Yes, sir.
That was
Yes.
its always intention?
Yes, without being on the original design team, I would assume that drive is there, and that's a logical place to bring it in.
Staff, you want to comment?
We double-checked today, and it was approved within the October 2022 COA that did have that little drive. I can pull it up here on the site plan.
Yes.
That it was approved, because we double-checked as well.
And the dock, the patio, well, I guess you're going to call it a patio, if it's not a dock, because I don't know what else it would be.
Landing.
You were going to load from the side, and now you're going to load it from those doors, right? But there was a turning issue with.
So the challenge and the reason I can't say what the original plan was, they didn't show any doors there originally. They had the drive, so again, my assumption is that's how that was going to happen to access the building. We looked, and you can see I added a little sketch to underscore the challenge we had was the tight radius if we tried to come off the side. When we recreate that landing area, you just get such a tight radius off the side. It became challenging because that was a part of the discussion with DRC was looking at the doors on the side. We did that, and that's why I added this to demonstrate, we looked at that. It just felt to be able to provide that landing area was just going to get really tight and provide a tight radius.
Emily, did you want to show something on the original site plan?
I can. It'll just take me a minute to get that pulled up. This is the one that's been submitted, but we can pull up the COA if you just give me a moment.
If this helps, this is actually from the original drawing set, so this isn't, I added the red and the blue marks there, but that was pulled out of that original submittal document.
I see the drive, and I know the drive was on the original, I even have it with me, from what was originally proposed. But I didn't know if that was actually intended to be an entrance place for deliveries when it was first proposed.
I think they said at DRC that when they had somebody look at it from a practical point of view, that drove this.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I remember correctly?
That's exactly what I remember.
Yes.
So this is new. This is a new thing then.
Yeah, I think so, from DRC.
I don't think everything's new.
New,
I
but it's.
think the door, you needed the
Yeah.
doors to be able to
Right,
back in.
right.
With the truck because of the turning radius that you didn't
That's
have
right.
the
Yes,
other
sir.
way.
That's right. And what is the drive, what are you going to use, what material?
I believe it's whatever has been approved off the top of my head. I can't
Is it-
remember if it's concrete or whatever's been approved. We're not proposing any sort of change to the drive material. I apologize, can't remember the material.
Brian,
off
are
the top of my
you,
head.
does that answer your question?
No, it really doesn't. Because what I wanted to know is from our previous approval, did we approve that with that? And then the drive
Define
on the site
that.
plan. Did we approve that would be there was an entrance there that a truck could actually pull up to and make deliveries into that
And I think the answer is yes. We approved it, not exactly the way it's shown now, but I think we approved that area was going to be a loading, unloading area for museum pieces. I think that's right.
And that's my question.
My memory, I think that may be a change, and it was driven, just the little piece coming
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
And it was driven by a practicality use issue. That's what,
But the section that pulled up to the house was there.
It
And
was.
that-
it was. Yes,
So
yes.
we're all in agreement on that.
Yes, we're all in
So
agreement,
it was-
yes.
I do remember, I mean, I'm foggy with a lot of things, but I do remember at DRC, you talked about that. It was the
Right.
It was the turning issue for
Right.
trucks coming in and out of there with pieces.
Yes, sir.
And that's why you had to go it from back in there to where you had a front access.
Correct.
That's what I remember.
That is my memory.
And that's what you've
That-
designed.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay,
correct.
so that's what we're
But
looking
our
at.
original plans did not show the
Door.
patio, the patio that comes
I
out.
don't understand what a patio is.
There's like a concrete deck in front of that
Mm-hmm.
mast.
Okay, all right.
I am casting to the screen the approved 2022 COA.
Okay, so
So this was, I can look real quick to see if there is that front little concrete pad.
okay, there's not.
It's not.
There's not, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, to Brian's point, I understand the necessity for having loading on site, and maybe even in that part of the property, but it's a really hard sell for me to put what equates to a loading dock on the front of the Winstead house. It's like you're not even close to selling that with
Absolutely.
me. It's not even close.
And I don't disagree with that at all. And as we've looked at that, we did intentionally not add the things you would see. There's not dock bumpers. There's not any of the things you would associate with a loading dock, which is why I don't, want to call that. We're going to detail it. You'll have stone around it to match the base. Visually, it's not going to read as anything close to what you're just, afraid of, which, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah, you're still a long way from convincing me that it meets what I would expect to, protect one of the most iconic houses. I mean, there's just that little concrete patio in front of it and a pair of doors. There's just no way. For me, just personally speaking.
So it goes back to the intent. What is the intent of that patio?
The intent of the patio is to have a space that, if you're going to bring things into the building, you've got to have a space to stage. Again, from a practical standpoint, I've got to have somewhere to put them. Now,
It's a loading dock.
sure, yeah.
It is.
I mean, yeah.
All right,
It's, quick question.
Other comments?
Is it gonna be a dock-high loading dock, or are you gonna dig a well?
What was the question?
Is it gonna be
Height
dock-high?
of it.
Or are you
It'll-
gonna dig a well to back into so you can have the trailers?
No, you'll have the same, and you can actually see if you look at the image that's on page 5. There's a 5 and 6 going around the side, or I'm sorry. There's images around the side. It matches the current relationship. If you look now, there's a raised concrete piece. So it's that same relationship. We're not having to come through and excavate to create a well. We're not doing any of that. Right now, the FFE is above the surrounding grade.
Okay.
We're essentially just extending that finished floor level out, and it's, 3 feet, give or take, above surrounding grade.
So I'm not expecting any large trucks.
No, we expect
Like
box
no
trucks.
18-wheelers, box
Correct,
trucks.
yeah, no, this isn't anything where, you're backing semis. We'll have, box trucks, a forklift, whatever they need. And this isn't anything that's gonna be, hey, every week there's a loading. They're gonna change. When they change exhibits, that's something that's gonna happen once every 4 to 6 months. So we're trying to be sensitive to the visual of that, but also, again, just, practically provide a way to get things in.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
So is
And
there
how-
any other way you can accomplish what you need in some different iteration of the loading dock, so to speak?
I mean, if you need to get things in, if that landing piece is kind of a deal breaker there, we can just not have that. You'll have, essentially to staff's point, we've detailed those doors to read as windows. There's not handles on the outside. We can just have the doors and you'll open it. You'll have to keep them locked because you don't want somebody to open it and fall 3 feet. If we had to do that, that's something I think we could work with.
And how tall, how much off a grade is the concrete?
Roughly 3 feet. And again, it's similar to if you look at the images, what's there now, that kind of concrete piece, it's similar to that.
Have you considered making the top of it brick?
Yeah, we can absolutely, we could absolutely make the top of that brick to let it read softer.
And soften it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, any other comments on it?
Mr. Chair, I would have to concur with what Tyler is saying. I feel like, and Brian, that this is really, I think, taking away from that elevation, and I would not be able to support it.
I don't know enough about trucks, but would the bed, if you didn't have it, would it kind of match up to the door you're going to open?
It could, but again, when you do that without getting too far down the road of industrial architecture, when you do that, you've got to have a leveler, do a lot of things. We're going to have a
Okay.
box truck. They'll bring a forklift. They'll pick things up, put them there. Keep it very simple. Again, this is something that's going to be a relatively rare occurrence. So we don't want to have any more there, than we need. Again, being sensitive to the visibility of that elevation.
I mean, I'm still concerned about the stoop, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if it's 3 feet tall, now we're going to have rails by code, yes? 30 inches is the rule?
I believe if you're restricting the access, you can get 30 inches is the rule. If you restrict access, I think there's some ways around that. That's something we would work through.
How are you going to restrict access to that thing from the outside?
Because the only way you'd be able to get to that is off those doors from the interior. If we just
What if
have
I
those
just walk
locked,
up the driveway and just climb on
up to it,
Yeah,
I guess you could do that.
yeah. So, I mean, you're going to be required to have rails, I would guess. I mean, so it's turning into a thing that it ought not be. And I don't have a problem with you having a loading dock. I think that's not the right place for it. It's on the front elevation.
We were responding to what the site plan showed us.
Yeah.
And functionally, what gives us access to the rest of the space.
Okay.
All right, Susan.
Do we have a photograph of I know we have a historic photograph here, but do we have a photograph of how that elevation looks now?
Go to
I
page
mean, I
7.
know there's a handicap ramp.
If you zoom in on the bottom of page 7, it shows pretty well what's there. There you go.
Bottom right.
It reads as a back door almost now, in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Our intention is try to improve the feel and look of it, but still have access. And maybe instead of maybe it has a stair in the front that stair walks down to that driveway on the front, so it reads more like a porch as you're walking up to it. And that just happens to be where we load and unload. If you guys would be open to that, that'd be a way to solve this.
And it's how far off the front elevation of the house?
The depth of that, 8 feet.
So as I'm looking at page 7, So we're seeing the side of the house, and what we're talking about is there'll be an addition that comes onto that side that matches kind of what's there historically. And it's in that part we're talking about, but currently, there's nothing there except for that window.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
I think what they were asking is how far is it from the front corner of the mansion? And it looks
Yeah.
like on your 3D model that patio you're proposing comes up and touches the back corner. So it's all the way back
To
at the back corner.
where tower?
I'm looking at the
That's-
3D on page 7,
You-
upper left-hand corner.
You can actually see too on page 2, it shows the edge of that.
There you go. It's all the way back at the back corner. And then the building addition starts 8 feet behind that.
That's correct. Yeah, we intentionally, obviously wanted to keep that back behind the primary mass of the home.
I think we have photographs of other elevations, but we don't have that corner. And of what it looks like now. And in my mind, I think we need to see how that's reading now.
So does the commission want to defer this?
Yes, I was
I
going
think
to
so.
make a motion to defer this particular item.
For other options and?
Yes, uh-huh.
But
And
go
more-
ahead and approve the window configuration.
to defer the front sun porch, period.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
that's
All right, who
exactly-
wants to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we got, and that the motion to defer will trump the other motion that's on the floor.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Could I ask a question?
Hang on just a minute. And Brian, did you say,
I'd second it.
all right, one,
Could I, just to clarify for me, kind of what I'm hearing, is there any issue with the building piece of the sun porch itself outside of the piece out front of it?
That's what I was wondering, why we couldn't go ahead and approve that, because other pieces
there
are,
seems to be a different perspective every time we get into a
Okay.
conversation here. So I'd rather just defer, I'd rather see the commission just defer the sun porch and then let them come to DRC and kind of work out some of these details. But I think you're on the right track, but I think the patio piece is the biggest hurdle.
And it could be they find another location for it.
That's the reason to come.
Which would
for-
cause a whole different
Gotcha.
configuration on the window.
No, that's exactly right.
If that patio around the side, would that change?
Well, I thought that was the reason you
Well-
wanted to kind of put it to the front for loading purpose. But you look at it, however you want to look at it.
Good.
So there's a motion to defer Lisa's and Brian's is,
Mr. Chair, was there a motion to defer to a specific time?
well, it would be to the next voting meeting. I'm sure that's exactly what Lisa's thought, and that would be January,
You read my thoughts.
to the January 24 voting meeting, yes. So all in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay. And no for Scott. One no. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1 to defer. All right. Let's move on to the elevator addition. You touched on that, Emily. Brandon, do you have any other comments on that?
I'm just happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and let's have a motion from the commission then on the elevator addition.
Move for approval with staff comments.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, comments?
I think it's highly unusual to have a tower on the exterior of a building like this for an elevator shaft. I know with our guidelines, when we talk about what's done on the rear of a building, we usually show a little more tolerance where the guidelines are concerned because it's on the rear. But with this building, because you have public gardens in the back and the public are all around this building, it's seen from all public views. So I don't really see this kind of is technically at the back because of that. The only thing that I hesitate on, I don't think it fits the architecture of the building, but there's a part that says you want to be able to reverse something that you do in a historic building in the future. And this would be easier to reverse than an elevator on the interior. But I thought the previous architectural renderings with it on the interior was a better location. But with that caveat that you do want to be able to reverse in the future if someone chose to. So, yeah, it's conflicting.
Is it possible that it have just a shed roof instead of the roof form it has on the elevator?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, the thought there was, I was a little worried that the shed is a standalone because it's vertically, it stands alone. I was worried that may look a little awkward. I tried to clean that up with what we did. But we could absolutely do that.
I think the height and detailing for me are what I'm struggling with here. I think it's in a good spot to not be invasive on the house. I mean, it's hard to dig next to an old house. I don't know what model you're using or any of that, but if you can minimize the cab height, because it doesn't have to match the ceiling height in the mansion, to as short as you can and shorten that mass. And I'm looking at the west elevation. There are parts of this building that have been added onto that just have flat roofs. And I'm specifically looking at page 5. There's your rendering there that's colored. The back of the mansion there has the little window with the flat roof. Just sort of detailed real simply like that, not with that hip roof and a really elaborate cornice, just something simple. And if it could come down a little, I know you've got to have some overrun, but some models can get pretty small.
Agree. And this is based on a hydraulic elevator. Again, we've got to have something because of the anticipated load, and we've got to have something that's going to be more than, they've got some simple lifts, things you would use residentially that are a little smaller. This is based on a hydraulic elevator, and that height is guided by the hoist beam. I verified that we needed that. They need it for installation, servicing. I've actually am working very closely with elevator rep to tell me every single inch you need and tell me why you need it. So I'm working hard to minimize that. Obviously, if anything we can do to bring that down as we're fully detailing this out, we will. And certainly happy to, I think we could make that a flat roof.
I think Tyler's comments, if you could be inspired by that other little addition, it would keep your eye from racing to this feature.
Yeah,
when you're-
it's sort of bell tower-ish, which I don't think's unappealing. It's just it definitely competes with everything else that's going on. It's quite iconic. I mean, I think it's pretty, but it's like, well, I'm not sure we want to draw attention to the elevator shaft.
To be perfectly honest, I struggle with it because on one hand, I kind of had the height I had to have just physically, and I was trying to say, well, if I've got to do it, try to make it look a little more intentional, but we can certainly, pull that back.
The other thing that could be useful tool here is if it does end up having to be that tall, you can put a cornice down lower and treat it like a stepped parapet. Nobody would know it has a flat roof, but it would bring the scale down to where your eye stops at this lower cornice, but you still got a little bit of space above for that hoist beam. But trying to pull that down just with our eyes, I think, is going to go a long way, and not letting that be the star of the show there on the side.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be the star of the show. It's not. We could certainly bring that down. It would just be a matter of wanting to do it just enough that I can't see that parapet behind it and wonder what that is. But
Okay, we're
yeah.
getting into design
So I
here,
would
pretty
move-
heavy.
I'd move that we defer this issue as well into the next voting meeting in January.
And then Brandon can capture the various comments. And is there a second to Brian's motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Susan. And there'll be no discussion, so all in favor of the motion to defer the elevator addition to January, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Moving right along. Rear stair addition. Any other comments on that, Brandon?
No, sir.
All right. Let's have a motion from the commission on that one.
Move for approval with staff comments.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, comments.
So previously, where were, I know codes would require stairs. So previously, where were they approved in the original architectural rendering?
Where was the stair? It was, if you can bring up the floor plan on page 2, I believe it is. It was essentially rotated 90 degrees, about 7, 8 feet off of the existing building the historic building outline, we'll call it.
Was it was enclosed within part of the addition or the building, or was it exterior?
It was exterior to the historic building. It was roughly, I believe, a little bit outside of that existing siding piece off the back, but it was roughly within that line.
But it was enclosed with an addition?
Yes. Yeah, if I'm understanding you correctly, yes.
And, you know, I read the narrative, because the narrative was that a museum person who'd come in who associated with some new buildings in Washington and recommended a different flow. And that's what precipitated the change in the staircase.
Yes, that, along with the overall reexamination of the flow, there were some items that, you know, were changed for some life safety reasons. The elevator was part of that, but in general, yeah, that was his recommendations.
And then that creates on the exterior more of a, I know what you call it. It looks boxy to me. I'm just going to call it a boxed addition. It gets very large. It's already kind of there, I think.
It is, yep.
But it gets extended, so it's even larger. And that's the reason for that.
Yeah, that addition is intended to, you know, enclose the stair and then some space inside of that. And it's similar to, kind of tried to have those red lines, those red dashed lines to show the extent. It's a similar language to what's there now. And we had some double windows previously, looked at it in DRC, made those singles, added some trim detailing, did some things to soften that so it didn't feel quite so boxy, and really just allow it to work with what's there, and I think is relatively similar to what we see there now, extended out a little bit, but the same language.
So that's the image, the top image that we're seeing on
Yes.
the screen.
That's correct. Top left, yeah.
So is this the new box that's being built out? It looks like in plan, you've got this director's office and stair. It sets out, if I had just a straight on front elevation, it sticks out the side by several feet, is that true?
About 8 feet, give or take.
So from
And it's set-
Margin, from South Margin Street, you'd be able to see, like, the front of the house,
It's-
you'd be able to see that box sticking out. on
It's
the
also
second
about 65 feet back from the front, so it's
Right.
set back far enough that visibly, it's not going to be something you notice.
Okay, other comments? Ready to vote then? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
No.
Oh, we'll do this by hand. All in favor of the rear stair addition as proposed, please raise your hand. All opposed? 4-3. All right, that's defeated. So we need another motion then, right?
Right.
Mr. Chair, I move to deny.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Is there any reason not to just defer it?
Would be my sense. I think
Then I
I'll wind
will,
up
would-
I
same way.
withdraw my motion and move to defer to the
To
next
the-
voting meeting
When
of
the
the
other
Historic Zoning
pieces
Commission.
come?
Ms. Bessery, do you agree?
I,
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, rear porch enclosure. Their motion.
Can they show me where this is too? Is it just where the elevator and restrooms are?
No, this is the rear. If you kind of think about the historic house, it's the back piece of that. On page 6, you'll see a very good view of what's proposed.
South elevation.
Correct, yep.
Is that colonnade that runs through there?
Yeah.
Which part of it's enclosed is still a colonnade? Or is it that sunroomy looking thing?
Yes, the sunroom looking.
Okay. Because there was comment made in the staff report about arches and all that, and I was like, what were we talking about here? Okay.
All right, is there a motion then?
I'll move to approve staff
I can
comments.
second that.
Scott, you move to approve?
Yes,
And
With staff
Tyler
comments.
that
seconded.
was staff comments.
Yeah.
The staff
Yes.
comments.
All right, discussion?
So the discussion that I would have is that it looks to me that where that's located, and if this is what we're talking about, then the addition of what we're kind of saying, we deferred kind of the boxy, it kind of comes out next to that porch. Is that correct?
They both, I guess they both project off the back elevation.
And one is
So-
two-story and the other single-story as a porch.
Correct, that's right. Yeah, this
So-
what we're showing is just single story.
If you didn't have that stair tower, how would the porch integrate into that rear?
Well, you're gonna have to join, and you've got to connect, if you remember, you've got that rear museum space on the back, you've got to connect, so, trying to think in my head, the sun porch would conclude into that piece that then connects to the museum piece off the back. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat. I don't have an issue architecturally or historically with that sun porch.
Okay.
But I just didn't know how it was going to interact with everything else if things change.
We may have to revisit this depending on what the stair
Mhm.
does.
So in that case, we need another motion to defer, perhaps?
We can, I guess we could approve a sun porch.
So what's your pleasure?
Theoretically.
I would make a motion to approve the sun porch.
I've already made that.
He's already made
Oh,
that.
I'll second
Scott and
the-
Tyler have approved it with staff
Okay.
comments.
And has it got a second?
Yeah, Tyler.
Okay, then,
So
Good.
we're Any other discussion? Then all in favor of the rear porch enclosure motion with staff conditions, please raise your hand. Got one. All right. That's unanimous. All right. The next one is the carriage house. Need a motion on that? Unless you had any more comments on it.
No, sir. Is available to answer any questions.
I would move to approve with staff comments.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All right. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of that, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that gets us.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that we do a site visit. I feel like there's so many moving parts with this that it might be time for another site visit.
That would be good if that's good with the applicant. the
Yeah,
site
absolutely.
visit.
What,
And the purpose would be to discuss before, ideally, it would be before the next voting meeting, the 3 items, or 3 or 4 items that were deferred, so you get a better firsthand look.
yeah, absolutely.
So if you'll just coordinate that with staff. And
You like coffee or hot chocolate?
Or other.
Or other.
Okay. Any other business before the commission? We'll have is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All right, thank you. We're adjourned.